They were just girls, ordinary, with lives like any other.
I loved to dance, my bright eyes and quick laugh always lighting up the room.
And I preferred painting hidden worlds on canvas, quiet and thoughtful.
They lived next door, their bedrooms sharing a wall, their lives intertwined. Summer days were filled with laughter, secrets shared in hushed tones. They built forts in the woods, told ghost stories under the covers. They were inseparable, two halves of a whole. But their world, once bright and carefree, was about to turn dark. It started subtly, a creak in the night, dismissed as an old house settling. Shadows stretching longer than they should, blamed on overactive imaginations. But fear, once planted, has a way of taking root. The nightmares began on the same night, vivid, terrifying, impossible to shake off even after the sun rose. They didn't speak of it at first, each afraid to give voice to the terror that gripped their hearts. But in their silence, the fear grew stronger. The whispers started soon after, faint at first, like the rustling of leaves just outside the window. But the words, when they formed, were chilling. They spoke of darkness, of despair, of a hunger that would never be satisfied. Sleep became the enemy. Every time they closed their eyes, the whispers grew stronger, more insistent. Their dreams, once filled with fantastical creatures and adventures, transformed into horrifying landscapes inhabited by unspeakable things. One night, as Emily tossed and turned, a cold hand clamped over her mouth. She opened her eyes to see a figure shrouded in shadow leaning over her. Its breath was rancid, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. It leaned in close, its voice a guttural rasp in her ear.
"You are mine."
The words, filled with a chilling promise, sent shivers down her spine. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but terror held her captive. They finally confided in each other, their voices trembling with fear.
Both described the same horrifying figure, tall and skeletal, with skin like rotting parchment.
Its eyes, burning like hot coals, seemed to pierce our very souls.
They called him the Shadow Man. He haunted their dreams, appearing night after night. He chased them through endless corridors, his laughter echoing behind them. He showed them visions of their worst fears, whispering promises of eternal torment. Their days became overshadowed by dread. They stopped playing, their laughter silenced. Their once bright eyes were now dull with fear, their faces pale and drawn. The life seemed to drain out of them, replaced by a growing despair. Their parents, noticing the change, were beside themselves with worry. They took the girls to doctors, therapists, anyone who might offer an explanation for their sudden decline. But no one believed their stories of the Shadow Man. They were dismissed as overactive imaginations, stress, even puberty. The girls knew the truth. They were being hunted. The Shadow Man grew bolder. He began to appear in their waking hours, lurking in the corners of their vision, the feeling of being watched. One particularly terrifying night he appeared in Sarah's room. She woke to the feeling of something cold brushing against her cheek. Her eyes flew open, staring into the Shadow Man's burning gaze.
"You cannot hide, you are mine."
She screamed, the sound raw and primal, but the Shadow Man was gone. The only evidence was the terror etched on Sarah's face and the lingering smell of decay.
Desperate, their parents sought help from outside conventional means. They had heard whispers of a priest, a Father Michael, who lived in a remote abbey on the outskirts of town. He was said to have a gift, an understanding of things that went beyond the realm of the ordinary.
The abbey, nestled high on a hill overlooking the town, was an imposing structure. Its stone walls, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, seemed to exude an aura of ancient power.
As they entered the dimly lit sanctuary, a sense of peace, however fragile, settled over them. Father Michael was an old man, his face etched with the lines of a life spent grappling with the darkness that plagued humanity.
He listened patiently as they recounted their ordeal, his piercing blue eyes never leaving their faces. When they were finished, he sat in silence for a long moment, his fingers steepled in thought.
Finally he spoke, his voice low and steady. "The entity you describe is ancient, powerful," he said, "and it feeds on fear."
A flicker of hope ignited in their hearts. For the first time, someone believed them. Father Michael, unlike the doctors and therapists, didn't dismiss their story as childish fantasy. He recognized the very real danger they were in.
There is a ritual, an ancient rite of binding. It can sever the connection, but it is perilous. The entity will seek a substitute, a soul to replace the ones it has lost.
Without hesitation, Sarah and Emily grabbed each other's hands, a silent vow passing between them. They had faced the Shadow Man's terror together, and they would face this new challenge the same way. They would do anything to break free from his clutches. Father Michael, sensing their determination, nodded slowly.
Very well. Tonight we confront the darkness. But you girls must promise me something.
His voice, usually so calm and reassuring, was now tight with emotion.
You must promise me that you will live your lives to the fullest, that you will never take a single moment for granted.
The ritual was to take place in the chapel, the oldest part of the abbey. As darkness fell, casting long, eerie shadows across the ancient stone walls, Father Michael began his preparations. He lit candles, their flickering flames casting dancing shadows across the room, and arranged sacred objects on the altar. Sarah and Emily, dressed in white nightgowns, sat huddled together in the front pew. Fear gnawed at the edges of their courage, but they clung to each other, drawing strength from their bond. The air grew heavy, the silence broken only by the crackling of the flames and the sound of Father Michael's chanting. A sense of dread settled over them, pressing down like a physical weight. And then he was there. The Shadow Man materialized in the center of the circle, his form solidifying from the shadows, his eyes burning like hot coals, fixed on the girls, and a guttural growl rumbled in his chest.
You cannot escape me. Your souls are mine.
Begone, creature of darkness. Your reign of terror ends tonight.
He raised his crucifix, the silver glinting in the candlelight, and began to recite the ancient rites of banishment. The air crackled with energy, the flames of the candles sputtered and flared. The Shadow Man roared, his rage shaking the very foundations of the chapel.
You are bound by the ancient laws, and by those laws I banish you.
The Shadow Man, trapped within the circle of power, thrashed and screamed, his form flickering as the priest's words struck home. And with a final ear-splitting shriek, the Shadow Man vanished. The candles sputtered and died, plunging the chapel into darkness.
It is done. He is gone.
The girls stumbled out of the chapel and into the night. The world seemed different, sharper, more alive. The air was filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. They never forgot Father Michael's sacrifice. They lived with a joy and intensity they had never known before, cherishing every moment, every laugh, every sunrise. But sometimes in the quiet hours, they would remember the terror, the Shadow Man's cold breath on their skin, and Father Michael, who had given his life for them. In the silence, they would hear his voice, echoing across the years, reminding them to cherish the gift he had given, to live, to love, to never be afraid of the dark, for darkness would always be lurking at the edges of the light. Please like and subscribe, it would be much appreciated.